Hi everybody, hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Theresa McGallicher here, and I want to share some information with you today to help you on your spiritual journey. The last time I did a video, I spoke about Peace Pilgrim, a very inspirational woman that I have been researching for a book that I'm writing on 365 enlightened people. And the other day, I ran across a man that was so fascinating, I really wanted to share this information with you. So his name was Ed Davis II, and he was born in the southern part of West Virginia in the coal mining country in a town called Buffalo Creek in 1933. And he was very bright. He went to prep school, and then he ended up going to college at West Virginia University in Morgantown, and after receiving his bachelor's degree, he pursued a law degree, and he became a very successful lawyer in the town of Charleston, West Virginia. By the time he was 30 years old, he was wealthy, and he was pursuing a partnership in a law practice with the former governor, Governor Barron of West Virginia. And it was at that time, in 1964, that he had a terrible car accident driving his Jaguar. And the accident was so severe that he suffered from major head injury and brain damage, and things started to decline from there. Now, I want to interject here why I find this story so fascinating, because miracles happen all the time, and anything is possible. And I feel like the story of Ed Davis is a prime example of how miracles can happen when we are open to raising our level of consciousness and opening spiritually. So he had this accident in 1964, and there is documentation by doctors in West Virginia that he suffered significant cognitive problems, and his mental function started to deteriorate. He couldn't reason properly any longer. He had emotional outbursts, and he had seizures, and eventually he was declared completely disabled. His wife, Ruth, divorced him, and he was no longer able to practice law, so that he ended up being disbarred. He fought hard to retain his law degree, but it was suspended. So by 1977, he was no longer practicing law, and effectively he was a derelict, a homeless man living under bridges in West Virginia, and spending time in hospital waiting rooms. And he often liked to sleep in the cemetery because it was peaceful and quiet. He had this styrofoam mat that he would carry around with him and sleep on it. So the miracle happened in this cemetery in Charleston, West Virginia. In 1977, he was walking through the cemetery, passing this statue. You know how they have those statues in cemeteries sometimes at different grave sites of a big angel, a tall angel, and he heard a voice say, "Listen." And then he described his experience as being carried up into a kind of a spiral. And he said there were 7 profound knowings that were given to him of how the universe worked, and things that he could never really explain to another person, but he felt a deep sense of oneness with everything in creation. And he knew that good and evil were 2 sides of the same coin, that everything works together for good, and that he felt that evil had been given a bad rap, because he understood that from a higher perspective that everything is glorious and everything is perfect. So after he had this experience, he was retested by doctors, and they found that his IQ had increased by something like 45 points. They had tested him previously at 111, and his IQ shot up to like 164 or something. And he was able to think clearly. He began to practice law again. He became a city lawyer, and he found that he had psychic abilities. He was able to predict things that were going to happen, when they were going to happen, where they were going to happen. And he wrote a book called Out of Darkness. I haven't been able to locate this book, but he also wrote a lot of beautiful poetry. And he said he felt during this experience as if his brain had been reorganized. He could feel his brain reorganizing. And he hoped that the poetry that he wrote would reach people at the level of their nervous system rather than at an intellectual cerebral level, but go past that and infiltrate the nervous system in some way. So this is John Davis II that I'm talking about, of West Virginia. And I think that's about all I have to tell you about him. He regained his law practice and he remarried his wife. And then he died at a young age of kidney failure. I think he was only 50 years old, and that was in 1984. So I hope this story is a clear example to you that anything is possible, that no matter how bad things may seem, that everything can turn around, and that there are things happening at a spiritual level that are more perfect and more wonderful than what you can imagine when you're just using your brain and thinking about things from a physical level. I'm Theresa McGallicher. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.